The image of UFOs and aliens is often found in science fiction. But what about reality? What are the chances of people experiencing this phenomenon? In this issue we will try not to be biased and answer various questions and loud statements about those who have seen something and know something. And at the end I will tell my story of meeting a UFO. And we will begin with, perhaps, the famous incident that occurred on the 4th of July 1947. Farmer William Mac Brazel went to check on his flock of sheep after a severe thunderstorm. At the same time, on the slope of the hills in the desert, the farmer saw strange fragments of a mysterious object described as similar to a flying saucer. Moreover, nearby lay transparent balls, inside of which human-like figures could be discerned. The man reported this discovery to Sharif. The military arrived at the site where the objects fell. The story received a lot of publicity and the news was even discussed on air on local radio stations. However, it was later reported that the find turned out to be a weather balloon, but most did not agree with this. This incident was not remembered for 30 years. While in the late 1970s, the head of the intelligence department, Jesse Marcel, admitted in an interview that the weather balloon version was falsified and that the military actually observed mysterious artifacts, such as non-creasing foil, strange symbols, and lightweight, but at the same time super strong elements. This story has been discussed in the press for 2 decades. It all ended with the publication of the official conclusion of a new investigation in 1994, which stated that an object of a secret military program for monitoring nuclear tests had crashed. Well, we never found out the truth, but this story has one strange coincidence, namely the year of the event. The fact is that in the 1950s, an aircraft was created that was called Avrika. It was very similar to a flying saucer, and these were not classified technologies. According to the documents, engineers tried to achieve a vertical landing and vertical takeoff of the ship using jet engines. Experts also believed that their device as a whole could reach speeds of up to 5,000 km per hour, rise to a height of up to 30 km, and have a maximum flight range of about 1,900 km. But in reality, the experiments managed to raise the ship only a few meters, and its speed was no more than 56 km per hour. Due to the central jet engine, the aircraft was loud and also exposed the pilot to high temperatures. The project was officially closed, but what if it wasn't? Just imagine what engineers could achieve in 70 years. Meanwhile, the UFO continued to appear both among random eyewitnesses and among pilots. So in May 1957, fighter jet Milton Thuros, in the quiet English countryside, unexpectedly received an order to take off and shoot down an unidentified flying object. It chased the object, which at times seemed motionless, and then began to approach at a speed of about 2,000 km per hour. According to the pilot, the UFO did not follow classical Newtonian mechanics. He made a right turn almost on the spot, but when the pilot recorded the object and prepared to fire, it disappeared from the radar screen. For your information, ball lightning is not visible on radars. This strange meeting was one of the few that took place during the Cold War. In general, one of the most famous UFO observation projects is the so-called Blue Book. This project attempted to organize numerous eyewitness observations into one general archive. The project began in 1947, and by 1970 all activities were curtailed. By the time it was closed, more than 12,000 of various kinds of evidence had been collected about the existence of extraterrestrial life, UFOs, and aliens. Most of which were just fiction and falsifications of eyewitnesses, but there were those events that still cannot be explained. In the Soviet Union, things were different. Intelligence agencies actively studied any reports of contacts with aliens. And among ordinary people there were many activists who paid attention to this problem of their own free will. In the 90s, interest in UFOs disappeared, and along with its disappearance, research also ceased, although archives about these phenomena, cases, and developments still exist. And now, in our time, or rather in 2022, NASA announced that it would engage in its own research into UFOs from a scientific point of view, or, as they are now called, unexplained anomalous phenomena or phenomena. And this is not without reason. The fact is that conversations about suspicious objects in the skies over different countries became more frequent after the United States began shooting down suspicious objects, including in Alaska, while reporting that they did not rule out its extraterrestrial origin, but as always, most materials classified. Moreover, during the year, Uruguay, Chile, India, China, Canada, European countries, and especially countries where military conflicts occur, reported objects in the sky. What also cannot be an accident? Then what is it? The secret developments of large private corporations, or in fact the intervention of alien wanderers, spoke in favor of the latter. David Grash, a former intelligence officer, who also claimed that the authorities have not only the wreckage of alien spaceships, but also the remains of aliens. He is absolutely sure that for decades the authorities could have been hiding top-secret programs to detect and study extraterrestrial life forms and their technologies. According to him, there are partially intact aircraft of alien origin that either landed successfully or crashed. Moreover, he was able to obtain and begin studying UFO fragments as part of a state-secret program to search for alien ships. In addition to David Grush, 2 other witnesses testified at the congressional committee hearings. Also Pentagon employees who spoke out in similar ways. It's just not clear, if this is top-secret information, then why it became available to everyone. Meanwhile, Professor of Immunology, Harry Nolan, said that aliens visited the Earth and are still here. In his opinion, the aliens have the same effect on Earthlings as the Spanish galleons had on the Indians of America. They simply cannot be understood. Additionally, footage of 2 recently declassified UFO sightings was shown. For example, the video was made in the Middle East in 2022. Another recording from South Asia, which was made earlier this year, is also awaiting peer review. However, reality needs to be more prosaic. After the incident with the Chinese balloon, they began to peer more closely into the sky, and, just in case, shoot down all objects that fall into their field of view. News of mysterious objects shot down in the sky has caused a wave of activity among amateur ufologists, and it is predicted that in the near future, reports of UFOs will become even more frequent. And indeed it is. The U.S. intelligence community said that as of August 2022, intelligence agencies had received 510 reports of unidentified flying objects, which is a very large number. For clarity, in the period up to March 5, 2021, there were only 344 reports of such objects over a total of 17 years of observation. A particularly memorable incident of those times occurred in Belgium back in 1990, on the night of March 30 to 31. That night, unknown objects were tracked on radar and were seen by a total of approximately 13,000 eyewitnesses. 2,600 of whom submitted written statements detailing what they saw. Yes, it was impossible to hide this, and it was pointless. Therefore, after the incident, the Belgian Air Force released a detailed report on the events of that night. At about 11 p.m. on March 30, the center manager received a message that 3 unusual lights had been seen moving towards the city. The lights were reportedly brighter than stars, varied in color between red, green, and yellow, and were located at the vertices of an equilateral triangle, the center of which was also a luminous element. About 10 minutes later, a second group of lights was found moving in the direction of the first triangle. After about half an hour, we were able to observe the phenomenon on the radar. At this time, the second group of lights, through some chaotic maneuvers, also turned into a small triangle. The center ordered the dispatch of 2 F-16 combat aircraft in secrecy. Throughout this time, the phenomenon was still clearly visible from the ground. Witnesses described an entire formation of lights maintaining their position relative to each other as they slowly moved across the sky. Over the next hour, 2 combat F-16s attempted to target the target 9 times. In 3 cases, it was possible to obtain its coordinates from the radar for a few seconds, but each time the position and speed of the target changed so quickly that the guidance was reset. When the radar first focused, the target accelerated from 240 km per hour to more than 1,770 km per hour while changing altitude from 2,700 meters to 1,500 meters, then to 3,350 meters, and then descended almost to ground level. The first descent from more than 900 meters took place in less than 2 seconds. Similar maneuvers were observed during both subsequent radar focusings. There was no hint of the sonic boom that would inevitably occur when breaking the sound barrier. Moreover, according to narrator Stack Robert, such sudden changes in acceleration and deceleration would be fatal to one or more of the human pilots operating the facility. During this time, witnesses on the ground confirmed with a large number of messages the information that the smaller triangle they saw had completely disappeared from sight, while the large triangle was moving upward very quickly as the F-16 flew past. After this, the aircraft's radars and those in the control center completely lost contact. In fact, it's hard to believe, but nevertheless, I and several other people observed this very object in 2007, but only this was in Russia, in one small town. The object was quite massive, about 30 meters, but absolutely silent. It froze and could instantly move in a matter of seconds. He looked exactly as eyewitnesses in Belgium described him. To be honest, it was hard to believe that this unidentified object was the work of man. Most likely, you have seen something strange in the sky, so please share your story. Yes, people love interesting mysteries, something mystical, inexplicable, and UFOs are included in this list, but there are other nuances, and increased interest in the inexplicable has a downside, and may reinforce the erroneous idea that UFOs must be alien spacecraft serving as a cover for government organizations and their manipulation, especially given the events of recent years. In favor of this, let us recall the unique secret and unclassified projects that existed back in the 1950s. Just imagine, more than 70 years have passed, and engineers could achieve amazing achievements in a completely new field for us, about which we have no idea. Absolutely new technology, thanks to which silent devices of various shapes and sizes fly, and it seems that these technologies will remain secret for a long time, because their introduction into our lives threatens to affect many interests, from state security to the global economy. But who knows, maybe we are wrong, and they have been watching us for a long time. We just need to understand who, or what exactly. In any case, the truth is somewhere nearby.